All right, hello everyone and welcome to our 2023 Los Angeles events vendors preparation meeting for K-Play Fest, Asian American Expo, Anime Impulse, and Sneaker Expo.
Our event is coming soon on January 14th and 15th. By the time when I think right now we're actually 1 month away. It's actually pretty crazy. So this is the agenda rundown for today, and because during this live stream questions are welcome, as other team members are also on this chat as well too. So feel free to comment, feel free to ask any questions, and we'll actually be here replying to any of your questions live as well too.
Yep. Alrighty, so the main information contact, if you're not sure who to contact, is info@lightsandsounds.org. Once again, that's info@lightsandsounds.org.
Correct. Now, for those that know that you're part of either K-Play Fest, Anime Impulse, or Sneaker Expo, as you can see on the screen, we actually have all your individual contact emails. So for example, Asian American Expo is info@aaexpo.com, Anime Impulse, help@animeimpulse.com. So all this is available as well too. And worst case, you can always just check our website for the contact us, and we'd be more than happy to help you guys in any way possible.
All right, we're gonna move in now to important dates. So move in and time. On Thursday, January 12th, that is the first day that vendors can start moving in. Your time is allotted from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then Friday, January 13th, it'll be from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. I do want to note that specifically for Asian American Expo, their move-in time is going to be starting at 8 a.m. on Friday instead of 10 a.m. for everyone else.
These movement times are very important because on the vendor side, this is the one opportunity where you can actually drive your vehicle up directly next to the buildings to get as close as possible to help unload. Especially with those that have lots of things to unload, like we're talking about heavy equipment, for example, say a food vendor, or even a general merchandising vendor that's bringing heavy shelving. You want to do it either on Thursday or Friday. And one general suggestion is you bring the heavy equipment stuff on either Thursday, Friday, and then if you have anything that's more valuable, bring that in, Saturday, the morning of, and then you fill in the actual shelves itself. Just remember, the most important thing here is that vehicles are only allowed on site during these hours on Thursday and Friday. Saturday, especially because we're very rushed before the event starts, we're not allowing vehicles on site, meaning you will have to hand cart from the parking lot. Not advisable.
Right. I also do want to mention that during move-in, security will be on site to help direct you to the correct building that you're looking for. So if you have any questions, try to look out for one of them. The event days and hours are going to be Saturday, January 14th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sunday, January 15th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. as well.
Definitely expect heavy vehicle traffic upon arrival on both days. We've actually had multiple years now where I feel like some of the fans do line up. Some of the attendees do line up very early in the morning before doors open. That's the reason why a lot of these attendees trying to come early as well too. We're all going in through the same parking lots as well too. Mm-hmm. That's why it's heavily recommended for vendors to start arriving at least 1 hour prior, especially on Sunday when traffic congestion gets very bad. It's recommended to arrive at least 2 hours. Because the worst case thing that can happen is doors open at 10 a.m. and you are still not at your booth yet.
That's correct. All right, and then move out is going to be Sunday, hopefully starting at 7:30 p.m. until midnight. I do want to mention that vehicles will only be allowed on site once we have cleared the grounds of all the attendees.
So the key point here is once the event does end at 7 o'clock, we definitely recommend actually a hard stop 15 minutes prior to 7 o'clock so that all vendors can start packing up, cleaning up, and pushing the general attendees out, because our end goal is to get vehicles in as quickly as possible so you guys can move out and we can all go home.
Correct.
The goal is to not stay there until 2 in the morning.
Right, and anything left after midnight will be trashed or thrown away, so please don't leave anything valuable at your booth. So for the move-in and move-out parking directions, you're going to want to enter in through Gate 17, which allows you on-ground access. Gate 17 is located at 2705 Fairplex Drive, Pomona, California. And this is going to be the main gate where a lot of people are going to be parking.
So just to let everyone know, Fairplex has 2 major parking lots and we're taking over the entire venue. However, during move-in though, one side of the, how should I rephrase this? One side of the parking lot is actually across the street. So for the sake of during move-in, we're gonna bring everyone in through the gate 17, which is on the property side where your vehicle can actually access the venue itself. And we'll definitely have signage available as well on street side to point everyone towards the right direction. But gate 17, it's really the first entrance right when you exit Fairplex Drive off the 10 freeway. And of course, on the event days, we strongly recommend Asian American Expo and Sneaker Expo vendors to also enter in through gate 17. Now remember, both parking lots are fine. Our main goal here is to get everyone as close as possible to your buildings. It's just to be time efficient here. And how much does it cost again?
So on the event day, parking is going to be $17 per entry per vehicle. I do want to stress that during move-in, there will not be any parking fees unless you're moving in on Saturday the morning of.
That is correct. So Friday, there is no charge for parking. However, parking though, they do begin charging at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning. And same thing at 6 a.m. on Sunday morning. However, during move out though, they're not charging because the event is over. So on the next slide, as you guys can see here, the parking though during the event days for K-Play Fest and Anime Impulse, we actually recommend across the street at gate 9. So the gate 9 entrance is actually on White Avenue, which is the next exit after Fairplex Drive. Same price parking at $17 per entry.
So if you park at White Avenue for K-Play Fest and Anime Impulse, it will be slightly closer to the buildings that you guys are located at. That's why we recommend it.
Correct. And then for move out, it's just the mirror of everything we did for move in. Everyone now goes back in through gate 17 to access all the buildings on move out. On the next couple slides, we're actually going to go over just the general floor plans for all the buildings. Asian American Expo encompasses buildings 4 and also buildings 5. And then we have Sneaker Expo in Expo Hall 6. We have K-Play Fest in Expo Hall 7. Small cheers from Jersey. And then Anime Impulse encompasses buildings 8, 9, and 10. Of course, we also have outdoor areas on both Sycamore Street, Pepper Street, and on Elm Street. So make sure you're very familiar with the layout and where your booth is located.
Indoor setup notes. So a typical indoor booth is going to be pipe and drape. You're going to have 10 by 10, 8 feet tall drapes. You're going to have 2 chairs and you're going to have 1 8-foot table. For the artist alley setup, we have 2 chairs and 1 6-foot table, and that's it.
Correct. So the main difference between booths and artist alleys is that booth, you're in a very set 10 by 10 space that's properly defined with your pipe and drape the frames. Versus artist alley, it's a lot of shared communal space where everyone does have a 6-foot table and 2-foot chairs. We do have internally, we kind of measure it out, so everyone should have at least anywhere from 7 by 7 or 8 by 8 spaces. However, it's all about sharing when it comes to artist alley spaces as well too. Definitely you want to respect your neighbors as well.
Outdoor setup notes. So your standard booth setup that is not food will have also a pipe and drape. Well, it's going to be more like a canvas 10 by 10 booth with 3 sides enclosed, 2 chairs, and 1 8-foot table. If you are a food booth that is outdoors, you are going to have another 10 by 10 booth space. However, all 4 sides will be enclosed and 1 wall will be made out of mesh in order to comply with food and health regulations.
A specific note for all food vendors, the food booth setup with all 4 sides enclosed with a mesh front wall is set up per all health guidelines. So all our booths are also set up over a moppable surface. In this case, it's concrete flooring. And then we have 4 sides enclosed with a light on top.
Decoration notes. Vendors are responsible for all booth decorations. This includes any TVs, any lights, any displays, brochures that you want to bring. They must be non-flammable material. The health or not help. The fire safety guidelines does state this, so that's why we emphasize this. And all booth decorations cannot exceed 8 feet in height. If you're not sure how tall is 8 feet, if you're indoors, your pipe and drape booth is going to be 8 feet tall, so you can just measure it that way.
Correct. And then the same thing with the outdoor booths as well too. 8 foot would be the height of the front of your booth. So we just use that as a general measuring point, because anything that goes above that, there's additional, I guess, safety protocol things that the fire safety officer would want. Sometimes this may require drawings, which gets a little bit complicated, which is why, to keep things simple, we recommend just keeping everything at 8 feet or below.
For event admission, e-tickets or physical tickets are absolutely necessary in order to be admitted. If you have a badge, it is only used for identifying purposes and will not get you into the event. Hand stamps are required for every entry. At any exit point, there should be a security guard that is offering a hand stamp, so make sure if you plan on coming back to get a hand stamp before leaving.
So Asian American Expo and outdoor areas, especially outdoor food, will all be presented with physical tickets. Please, if you have any questions about this, please communicate with your sales rep about it. Anime Impulse, K-Play Fest, and Sneaker Expo are all going with e-tickets. If there's any questions about not receiving your e-tickets, make sure to contact us via any of the emails that we mentioned earlier on. The key reason why we still use badges is to really identify vendors from non-vendors, especially during the morning hours. As I mentioned earlier, there are attendees that do show up quite early and they start lining up, and some even actually try to get in early. A lot of times it's because of, they're just trying to start shopping already. So
Very excited.
So in the early mornings, especially before 10 a.m., security checks for two things at that point. They're checking either you have your e-ticket, physical ticket, and you also have a badge to prove that you actually are a vendor and not a attendee. For those that do need additional badges, when you're moving in on Thursday and Friday, make sure to check with your information booth to get your badges.
So above is an example of a sample badge for whatever event that you might be participating in. And again, the next slide will show that you still need a ticket or an e-ticket in order to get into the event.
That's correct. So each of all the brands will have their own different themed badges. However, this is only for identification purposes. Tickets are still needed in order to access the event. Physical tickets or e-tickets. Now, let's talk a little bit about venue safety.
So public safety security will be on site during event hours. During move-in, I believe security will be there overnight. However, we are still not responsible for anything that you guys leave behind. So we highly, highly recommend that you don't bring anything super expensive until the day of the event.
And a lot of times I like to tell people, please just use common knowledge. We do have security on site. However, it's never a guarantee that things won't be lost or stolen. I think of one example, one of our past events where someone decided to go to the restroom. The event had ended already for the day of, but they just left their entire purses out on a table by themselves. We do have security on site. However, it's a very large property. In situations like that, I would advise using common knowledge. If you were to go to a coffee shop to go to the restroom, you probably wouldn't leave your belongings just out on the counter and just disappear. I hope everyone uses similar types of common sense even for an event like this.
Vendor booths, we do ask that there is a staff there present at all times. However, we understand that sometimes you guys need to go to the bathroom or whatever, and you're the only one manning your booth. In those instances, we highly recommend that you ask your neighbors to watch the booth for you. But again, we want to really stress that we are not liable for anything that happens.
Correct. Now, moving from safety, let's talk about food and beverage policy, as Fairplex does have some of their restrictions as well.
Correct. So Fairplex is a Coca-Cola beverage facility. So what that means is if you're selling anything that Coca-Cola has their own product of, it has to be a Coca-Cola brand. So for sodas, it would have to be Sprite and Coke. And for water bottles, it would have to be Dasani.
Correct. So, look, we actually have a couple case scenarios that we can run through.
So our first scenario is there is a water bottle and it is Aquafina. So Gordon, do you think Aquafina would be okay to bring to the Fairplex?
No, Aquafina is not allowed because Aquafina is not a water brand that's sold under the Coca-Cola umbrella. with the only water brand being available being Dasani, as we mentioned.
And I do want to mention really quickly for water, if you do plan on getting your staff water, it does also have to be Dasani. However, if you really want to bring a water that is not Dasani, we just ask that you take the labels off of it so that it's not clear which brand it is.
Correct. And what's this next product that we have?
So next we have a Ito-En unsweetened green tea bottle. Gordon, do you think we could bring in this product?
Yes, this product is fully, there's no restrictions on this because this is definitely an Asian prepackaged tea beverage that Coca-Cola actually does not sell. So this item, definitely Asian beverages, as we mentioned earlier, there are no restrictions on this.
Okay, now we have Tecate Mexican beer. So this is a very interesting case. Do you think, Gordon, that I could sell Tecate Mexican beer at this event?
Unfortunately, the answer is no. However, this doesn't have to do with Fairplex's food and beverage guidelines. It actually has to do with Alcohol Bureau of Control, where anything that has to do with alcohol still has to go through an on-site alcohol concessions, which in Fairplex's case, I believe it's Ovation's Foods.
So basically, if you plan on selling alcohol, please let us know beforehand. Otherwise, don't bring it.
Correct. And standard for alcohol, we actually run that through sponsorships in a partnership with the venue itself.
All right, now we have Asian American Expo branded boba milk tea. Gordon, do you think this would be allowed?
This is actually allowed because number one, we consider this as a handcrafted beverage, meaning something that's not commercially prepackaged. Number two, it's also an Asian beverage, and honestly, last time I checked, Coca-Cola does not even sell boba.
That's correct. So basically, all in all, if you plan on bringing something prepackaged, make sure it is Coca-Cola branded or that Coca-Cola does not sell it. If you are handcrafting your own drinks, then it's totally fine and we don't have to worry about it.
Correct. Now let's talk COVID, the big elephant in the room that everyone always asks about. During, I want to say, Asian American Expo 2022, this year's event, depending on when you're watching this video, of course, at the time, COVID was something that people did take very strictly. We did have a very strict, we were demanding either PCR tests or on-site rapid tests. At the moment, with the current COVID infection rates, things are still solid. And in this case, we always say that health and safety is our utmost priority. We do recommend that attendees and vendors still wear face masks. However, at the moment, we do not have any restrictions. However, leading up to the event, please make sure to check on our website as we will always be updated with the latest COVID information.
We will be also monitoring CDC and what they say, and we will make sure to follow their guidelines as well.
Well said.
Moving on to electricity. So if you're indoors in any of the halls, which is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then you will be ordering your electricity through Convention Electric. If you do not already have this electricity order form, please contact your sales rep or any of the emails mentioned before in order to order sufficient voltage for your booth needs. The order deadline for the advanced rates would be December 30th.
And electricity begins at $141 for 500 watts. And if you were to just go through the electricity form, it has all the breakdown details of how much it costs for whatever type of electricity.
If you're outdoors, so if you are a food vendor or if you're, I don't know, just have
outdoors.
a booth, yeah, Palm Street, Elm Street, you would have to order through Total Production. So for Total Production, you're just going to have to email any of those emails mentioned before, and you would have to order it again by December 30th in order to get the advanced rate.
For outdoor electricity, it begins at $165 for 6,000 watts. And 6,000 is actually the lowest tier. 6,000 watts or 60 amps is the lowest tier for outdoor electricity, and then we go up from there. Electricity safety.
Alrighty, so please make sure, number one, to order enough electricity as needed. If you're not sure how much electricity you need, you can go ahead and contact either Total Production or Convention Electric, and they can answer all of your questions. We also ask that you prepare your own extension cords, and please do not daisy chain your electricity cords. If you're not sure what daisy chaining is,
here's an image.
The image above will now show an example. It's basically when you plug in a bunch of extension cords to each other to try to create multiple outlets for you to plug appliances into. This unfortunately is not how electricity works, and you could very much cause a fire hazard and that would be really bad. So please do not daisy chain your electrical cords.
Correct. And a final reminder to all vendors that do plan to order electricity, electricity goes live by 3 p.m. On Friday. So our final reminders.
So arrival time for all vendors on Saturday, January 14th and Sunday, January 15th are going to be 9 a.m. and 8 a.m. respectively. So again, Sunday is going to be 2 hours earlier due to the heavy traffic.
And we always like to remind everyone, tickets or e-tickets are needed for entry. We will have security on site by 6 in the morning on both days, checking for these passes.
If you plan on bringing any staff in to help you, please make sure they also have tickets, as those badges will not help them get in.
Just remember, it's always 1 pass per person per day. So for a 2-day event with a staff team of 2, you need 4. I think my math is correct, right?
That's correct. Alrighty, we're gonna move on to frequently asked questions. Let's test Gordon and his knowledge. Gordon, do you think I could get into Asian American Expo if I have a ticket to K-Play Fest?
Yes, you can. Any of the tickets that you purchase, either a K-Play Fest ticket or a Sneaker Expo ticket, grants you access to any of the other events, as we are doing a full venue takeover.
Yay! So I have a question. Why is gate 17 used for setup, but then I have to enter on gate 9 during the event days?
So as we mentioned earlier, technically both parking lots are fully accessible for both our attendees and vendors. They can park at either one. For us, it's more of an efficiency standpoint. Gate 17 is actually on the Fairplex side of the property. So let's say if I were an Asian American Expo vendor, it's a lot closer from where I'm parking versus say Anime Impulse in Hall 9, it's actually a much farther trek. The reason why gate 9 is not used during the setup days is gate 9 is actually across the street. Meaning in order to get from that parking lot over to Fairplex, you're actually going through a tunnel underground.
That's correct.
Which vehicles cannot go through that tunnel.
Yes, so if you want to drive up right next to the building for the easiest unloading process, then we highly recommend gate 17 during setup. But during the event days, the gates that are closer to you will be easier, as you will have to hand cart everything.
That's correct.
Hey Gordon, do you think I could bring my own power generator and save money?
Unfortunately, the FD, the fire department, does not allow power generators, as they actually need specific permits for all of them. And it's honestly a large logistical mess. That's the reason why Fairplex has actually banned individual power generators to be brought onto the showgrounds. All electricity has to be pulled through Fairplex's own designated electrical contractors.
Gotcha. How about if I need to ship a product directly to Fairplex? Do you think I could do that?
Lots of people do it. However, it's strongly not recommended. The main reason why is, as event organizers, we don't have a receiving department specifically for this. And on the Fairplex side, they also don't have a receiving office for this as well too. We do not recommend directly shipping goods or product samples directly to the venue unless there is someone on the, on the vendor or sponsor side that's already there to receive it.
Yes, if you can't be there to receive it, then I would not recommend shipping anything to Fairplex.
Correct. I would either coordinate like my own internal someone from the company to transport it, or planning to meet with whoever it is that is delivering. For example, I do know there are vendors that do order, third-party equipment rentals. For example, food vendors that are looking to rent temporary refrigeration equipment that does need to be shipped to the venue. In a case like that, I would use the standard address to get to the venue. However, I would make sure someone from the company itself is also there as well to pick it up.
Gotcha. What about if I want to bring in, like you mentioned, my own decorating setup company?
We have no restrictions on grounds for allowing vendors to bring in their own decorator or production setup company. If it's within the confines of a 10 by 10 booth, we definitely have no restrictions for that. If it's for someone that is setting up for something larger, for example, let's say a 20 by 50 for more of a sponsored booth, that also requires use of heavy equipment. In cases like that, make sure to check with us first. The Fairplex venue itself, they do require insurance and a couple of waivers to be signed off before allowing other decorators or production companies on site.
In short, if you decorate yourself, there's no problems.
Correct.
Alrighty, how will I know how to get to Hall 8 during move-in if I have never been to Fairplex?
So all the buildings are labeled with numbers, but I know sometimes it's so hard to find them. So the easy thing is we do have security on site during the move-in days. to kind of direct people to the right place. So you probably just tell them, hey, I'm looking to move into building 8. Do you know where to go? And then he will direct you in the right direction. Of course, at the same time, we also have staff on site as well too that are all around during move-in and even during the event days. Just feel free to ask anybody.
Gordon, how close can I get to the buildings during move-in and move-out?
So the reason why we advise allowing vehicles to drive up on those days is you can literally pull up your vehicle all the way close to the loading door as long as there is space, which is why I recommend to come early and to move in and to just follow security's directions, as they will do their best to get you as close as possible to the building that you want to be at.
I see. Hey, Gordon, how high can I set up my vendor booth?
So we talked about this earlier. With vendor booths, our parameters is 8 foot tall, which is the same height as the booth. So when in doubt, just look how high your booth is. Do not go any higher than that.
Ooh, Gordon, do you think I could bring in a tent top display indoors?
Unfortunately, no, the fire department does not allow it. I know there's lots of vendors that have their branded tent tops that they do want to bring. However, this has to do with the sprinklers in case, there is a fire outbreak. That's why tent tops are actually prohibited indoors. There are no restrictions outdoors though.
Ooh, this is a good one. So I love K-pop, and I was wondering if I could play K-pop music at my booth during the event.
For us, the standard has always been, yes, it's more than fine to make your booth as lively as possible. Just make sure to not, to check with your neighbors as well too, that you set your audio at a volume though that's manageable for everyone around. What I mean by that usually is you want to try and keep it at 70 decibels or lower.
I do recommend that if a staff member or any of your vendoring neighbors are asking you to turn it down, to please respect them and turn it down to an agreeable level.
Correct. At the end of the day, music is great. We love having different music being played at the event. Just make sure it's something that is agreeable with your neighbors.
All right, Gordon, what time earliest can I get access to the buildings to set up on Saturday and Sunday?
7 a.m. would be the earliest we are allowing vendors to get access to the halls.
What is the latest that I can stay in the building at the end of each day?
So our event ends at 7 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Definitely on Saturday, we probably do a hard push out around 9 o'clock. Sunday, we push it until midnight because that's the day that we are moving out.
Ooh, Gordon, do you think there's Wi-Fi available at the venue?
The venue itself does have Wi-Fi. However, this is something that you will have to pay. There's no free Wi-Fi. For those that do have any interest in ordering Wi-Fi, just contact us at any of our emails and we'll be more than happy to forward the Wi-Fi order form from Fairplex.
Again, that is Fairplex that is handling the internet. So please make sure to contact your respective event and they can get you the forms.
Correct.
Can I still order electricity once the event has already started?
Normally the answer is no. However, that's actually up to Convention Electric, our electrical contractor. It's their discretion. The main reason why is depending on certain locations, they may need to bring in heavy equipment, which could be deemed unsafe. So it really depends. However, it's very strongly recommended to order all electricity prior to the event starts, mainly because prices do go up. Before December 30th, it's the advance rate. Starting, January or December 31st, it's the new increase rate, which is almost actually 2 times the advance rate. So you definitely want to get in your electrical order as soon as possible. And for those that don't know how much electricity to order, talk to Convention Electric. Tell them what you're bringing, and they'll probably have a good idea of how much electricity you will need.
Gordon, what is the event policy on gray market or counterfeit goods?
We actually have a very strict one strike policy when it comes to any counterfeit or gray market goods. What that means is, let's say, for example, at Sneaker Expo, if a vendor is caught, selling fake sneakers, and we're able to verify that these are fake sneakers, we would have this vendor evicted from the premise with no refund. We take all matters of licensing IP very strict. As a company overall, we work on so many of these collaborations with a lot of these companies that have put in so much effort into building their brands. We definitely, we don't condone any form of gray market or counterfeit goods. And I think that ends the Q&A portion of today's orientation. I know there's still questions that are being asked right now. We're now transitioning to the second phase, correct?
Yeah, so from now on, we're going to be talking about the health information needed for anyone who is going to be selling anything that's consumable. So anything from food to vitamins to even pet food. All of those vendors, if you're selling anything food related, please make sure to stay for the rest of the video. If you're not, then go ahead and continue to ask your questions. Our team is answering them to the best of our ability, but you do not have to stay for the rest of this video.
Thank you guys so much. Jersey and I are signing off at this point. We'll let Hel take it over from here, but we look forward to seeing all you guys at the event. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, welcome to the second half of our presentation today, where we now begin the food safety presentation.
Please keep in mind that food safety is anything that is consumable, including prepackaged and even pet food.
As a reminder, the chat room is still open. If you guys have any questions at any given time for anything food related, please feel free to ask, as our team and also representatives from the health department will be on the chat call to reply to any of your questions. So let's kind of just jump into this. So here's the rundown for what we're going to be going over for this part of the presentation, which will be for food safety basics. If you are a non-food vendor, you can stick around and just ask questions in the group chat, but all of this that we're going to be going over does not pertain to you.
So we're going to be going over holding food temperatures, approved food sources, food contamination, prepackaged food labeling, which is really important, hand washing, clean and sanitize food equipment, and employee health and hygiene.
Correct. So the first most important thing is your food holding temperatures. This is before the food is cooked, like let's say raw foods, and also after the food has been cooked as well too. So in terms of food, if this is a hot food that already has been cooked, and it's kind of waiting to be served, and we need to maintain food temperatures above 135 degrees Fahrenheit or 57 degrees Celsius. On the cold end, for example, let's say raw foods, they always have to be maintained at sub 41 degrees Fahrenheit or 5 degrees Celsius. And the best way to check this is to make sure you have multiple thermometers at any given time, so you're constantly monitoring these temperatures, as the health department will be checking this.
Next, we have approved food sources. So approved food sources means that you bought your food or got your ingredients from a permitted food market or restaurant, or a permitted food bank and pantry. So the way to know if it's permitted is if you see USDA or FDA or any of these logos here, that probably means that it is approved.
That is correct. Because for us, food contamination is a very major thing. Especially with the total amount of attendees that are coming to the event, we want to make sure that everyone does have a good experience. So when it comes to food contamination, like we said on the previous slide, we only want to obtain food that are from approved sources. And even the foods that you do have, you want to store food in a way that protects against cross-contamination. So what that means is you want to keep your raw meats in separate packages away from, let's say, your vegetables. All food must be kept off the floor, meaning at least 6 inches height from the floor itself. And definitely you want to have separate cutting boards and utensils, some that are dedicated for raw foods and some that are dedicated just for other things, say, foods that have already been cooked. Especially when you're preparing your raw foods, always prepare raw foods after you're done preparing, ready to eat or ready to use foods. So let's say your food that you've done cooking, you can handle that first, then you can go back and touch other raw foods. And at any given time, always make sure to continue washing, rinsing, and sanitizing utensils after every single use.
Prepackaged food labeling. So the biggest thing for prepackaged food is it has to be labeled in English, and the food labeling must be in accordance with state and federal regulations. So what that means is you need to have the common name of the food item. You need to have the name and address of the manufacturer, packer, or distributor. And you also want to list the ingredients in descending order of predominance by weight and net weight of contents. And again, all prepackaged foods must be labeled in English.
Correct. So if this was any foods that were imported from overseas and the labeling does not have anything in English, it is not allowed at the event. And I think on the next slide, we have a couple samples. Do you want to kind of run through us?
Yes. So these images here are examples of prepackaged food that is prohibited from sale even if it was labeled in English, it is prohibited because it's not approved by the FDA. However, the biggest red flag for these prepackaged foods is that they are not labeled in English. And we're going to continue to show you examples of no labeling in English.
Correct. Now, after running through those slides, let's start talking about the hand washing component. So we talked about sanitizing utensils. We also have to make sure we sanitize our hands too. So the proper method for washing our hands is to actually keep it under running water for at least 15 seconds using soap and paper towels. On the soap end, I want to make sure it's liquid soap.
Yes, I do want to preface that hand sanitizer, although great for COVID, not great for hand washing, will not count.
Correct. And then the water that you're going to use to wash your hands also, it has to be hot water of at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit temperature. And definitely always make a good habit of just constantly washing your hands, especially, after doing anything such as, using the restroom, taking out the garbage, handling any raw food products, or even cooked food products. A good habit a lot of people like to do is even though they wear gloves, single-use gloves, they'll still wash their hands every single time before putting their gloves on and washing their hands after they take their gloves off.
So the next slide, we have an example of a step-by-step process. I'm not going to get too much into details as I sure hope we all know how to wash our hands, but it is in here in case you need a reminder.
Correct. And besides talking about washing our hands, let's talk a little bit about the actual equipment too that we need to sanitize. We always recommend preparing, separate utensils for handling different forms of food. So a set of utensils for handling raw foods, a separate set of utensils for handling cooked foods. Single-use utensils are honestly one of the best, especially for events. And make sure for all utensils, you need to properly wash, rinse, sanitize, and air dry all utensils and equipment. On the slide, we actually have a picture of a 3-compartment sink, which is your typical setup, especially with most restaurant back of houses. Make sure you are properly familiar with how to properly use all of them for their different compartment purposes.
For the 3-compartment sink, I do want to point out one compartment is meant to be for rinsing, one compartment is meant to be for washing, and one compartment is meant to be for sanitizing. So make sure that you are not
Cross-contaminating or cross-mixing between them.
Yes. Correct. Employee health and hygiene. Food employees should stay home if ill. Everyone should stay home if you feel ill. We don't want to be spreading any illnesses in this day and age. Food employees should keep their hands clean and wear clean clothing. Their hair should be restrained, so in a hairnet or tied back. Sometimes even a hat would be better. Trim nails short and cleaned. Use gloves when necessary. Cover any cuts or sores with bandages and gloves. And please, please do not eat while preparing food.
Correct. And that concludes the general rundown that we have for the major health guidelines. If there are any questions that you guys still have, even at the end after this orientation meeting, the best person to get in contact is with Ken, who is our designated health inspector for this event. His email and his phone contact number are actually all listed here on the screen. So if you have any questions, please ask Ken.
Alrighty, thank you guys so much for attending our vendor orientation, and we look forward to seeing you guys in January.
Thank you so much.